Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss the sinking of the Russian warship Moskva in terms of what people may be missing about the significance. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, not a topic I stray into very often on this channel, but the conflict is the political story of right now in Europe, and this story represents a potential turning point that, when you read accounts in the media, in this country at least, a lot of people seem to be missing. But to see where it's going, what we need to do is plot the trajectory. That means going back 2 months. So 2 months ago, Russian forces were, of course, amassed around Ukraine. The UK and US governments were saying that their intelligence suggested an imminent all-out invasion. Other people and governments poured scorn on the idea. So I did what I always do with massive political stories: find out independent experts to follow, compare with what they're saying with what transpires. Several of them pointed to the fact that Russia could not keep those forces in place for much longer. The weather was going to turn against them. Use it or lose it, they said. Russia launched a full-scale invasion, and the US and UK intelligence services were vindicated. But people still seem to assume that what would happen at that point, well, Russia's just going to roll over Ukraine. The West would have to work out how to deal with the aftermath. Didn't see this account from the experts, though. They saw a poorly organised Russian force with poorly maintained, dilapidated equipment, trying to control the largest country in Europe with a population that Russia only outnumbered 3-1. And it wasn't like Russia was committing its entire population to the invasion, which is a bit of a shame, because in actual fact, from their point of view, you need a 3-1 advantage in order to invade. So it was a largely conscripted military, was all that was there. The Ukrainian government didn't flee. The Ukrainian people resisted. Of course they did. This isn't like a medieval invasion where the people end up with a new king and a new flag, but otherwise life remains the same, nasty, brutish and short. This was an emerging liberal democracy with a strong national identity facing the obliteration of that identity, an existential threat. When people criticise Zelensky for being so demanding, it's because his people are literally at risk of extinction. Russia understands this. It now knows it can't dominate Ukraine while its people are there. Putin had this warped view of Ukraine as part of Russia, and its people are basically Russians. But that's not how Ukrainians see it. So he's now bent on changing their minds and killing those who will not turn. The gulags have been set back up. Ukrainian children are being adopted into Russian families. Citizens are being killed indiscriminately. Not just to sow terror, but to actually wipe them out as a strategic objective. If he could, Putin would just wipe out the entire Ukrainian population and then transport Russian communities onto its lands. He's attempting to do something similar, but a piece at a time. But the invasion went badly wrong. The experts were right. And it's not just that the Russian advance was halted. Russian forces have now had to withdraw from places that it previously breached. A cunning feint by Putin, some suggested. Bollocks, said the experts. You cannot just jam battalions together to make a new force. The command structures need changing. The remaining soldiers are demoralised. One of my favourites, Dr. Mike Martin, who suggested a while ago, what Ukraine need to do is to use the moment to attack Russian targets that are considered safe, which is a simple enough concept. Even for someone like me, all I've ever done is play strategic battle games. I've no in-depth military knowledge. I've never served in the military. I don't even have it as like a real hobby, you know. But an invading force pushes out from a position of safety, strength. If you overreach a little, you withdraw back to your position of safety. The problem for Ukraine is that Russia's positions of like security are not just on Russia's side of the border. It controls parts of eastern Ukraine. Russian forces feel safe in some parts of Ukraine. Well, that cannot continue. So by attacking targets there, they make the Russian forces less safe. What that means is that Russia cannot just think about attack, because at the moment it's focused entirely on attack. It doesn't have to worry about defence. No one's threatening it. You know, NATO have even ruled out threatening it. Putin's clearly still very worried about the concept, but NATO said, no, we're not going to do that. So Russia can focus entirely on attack. But once you attack Russia in its safe place, it has to think about defence as well. You expand their list of strategic objectives, which means spreading their attention more thinly. And that's partly how the sinking of the Moskva should be seen. I mean, like the general takes in the West, yeah, they're great, brilliant. oh, it's a bit of a blow to Russia to have its flagship sunk by a country which doesn't even have a navy. But that is missing the point of the attack. It wasn't a symbolic attack to give the rest of Europe a good laugh. It was a way to start stopping the Russian forces feeling safe. Because, there'll need to be other attacks to follow, but I'll get onto that. They don't have to be military hardware all the time. It could include roads, bridges, just strategically important targets to remind Russia that Ukraine is capable of attacking them. It's not all one way, because this is a potential turning point. Up until now, Russia has been attacking, Ukraine has been absorbing, often at unimaginable cost. But as people, plenty of people point out, this war can only have one of two endings. It's not going to be ended with talking. At the end of it, there will be a talk, because there will have to be, some terms, but it's not going to be just through talking. The two possible endings. First, the destruction of Ukraine, because Ukraine won't surrender. To surrender is to be destroyed, because Putin wants to obliterate their identity. Or second, for Russia to be defeated. Now, it's clear that the vast majority of the West, myself included, want the latter of the two options, because there aren't any others, and the first is morally reprehensible. In order for Russia to be defeated, its forces need to be attacked. It's not like Homer Simpson boxing, where he just stands there, the opponent just gets tired, and then falls to the canvas. Russia's not going to exhaust itself. It will take heavy losses. It will just keep throwing men at its conquest target like it's done for centuries. That's been the modus operandi for centuries. It can run out. It's been pointed out that Russia used to produce very large families due to the agricultural nature of its society, plenty of men to throw at the cannons and overwhelm their enemies. Not so much the case now, cannon fodder, shorter supply. But unless Russia is faced with losing something, there's no major reason right now for them to just call it a day and go home. It's taking longer than they wanted. It's not going well. The outcome looks very uncertain now. But at the end of the day, they're not risking anything by carrying on. So that calculation has to change. So they have to be attacked. And they have to be defeated. By attacking a Russian warship, Ukraine is starting this phase. Because another thing to consider is the symbolically important date of May the 9th for Putin. VE Day is May the 8th. And Russia celebrate the end of the Second World War in Europe on May the 9th. Big old military parade, the works. He will want to be able to claim some sort of victory. Otherwise, this year's parade is going to look a little bit silly. Putin is desperate for something to sell as a win. Donbass is where the focus is now. But Russia is struggling. It doesn't seem to have the capability of surrounding the area. Dr. Martin suggests Ukraine attack places like Kherson and Crimea in order to dislocate the Russians, as he puts it. Russia is in a race against time in a practical as well as a symbolic sense. Yes, Putin wants something big for May the 9th if he can, although they do seem to be reining back on that now. But that's just symbolic. That is just purely a random date. Ukraine is receiving more military equipment with each passing day. That makes Ukraine militarily stronger. The longer Russia delay whatever it is they want to plan, the harder it will be to achieve. Russian commanders will know this as well, which suggests that they're not in a position to achieve anything significant right now. They can't seriously just try and claim Mariupol, can they? Even that's bogging them down. Then the Moskva was hit. The timing is interesting. There was apparently an increased level of Russian bot activity. This is to lay the groundwork to present some narrative for something they were going to do. In other words, it seems likely that Russia was about to launch something. It was suggested that if independent experts could surmise this, so could Ukraine and NATO. Maybe they hit the Moskva to disrupt whatever Russia was planning. Maybe it worked. We won't know until we can look in the multiverse and see what would have happened if it hadn't been hit. We won't know. But perhaps what Ukraine is doing now is getting ready to disrupt major offences. Just as Russia is about to push towards a target, they hit something where Russia feels safe, so their forces have to divide their attention between attack and defence. They were focused on attack, now they have to think about defence. But the ship also represented an important element of air defence for Crimea and Kherson. Two targets that the likes of this expert and others suggest that Ukraine should be hitting. Now that Russia has withdrawn from certain areas, that's what they're saying. Hit Crimea, hit Kherson, where Russia feels safe. And what they've now done is to hit a warship that was the linchpin for the air defences of those areas. So it'll be interesting to see the picture emerging over the next few weeks, but we could be seeing the start of a Ukrainian offensive here. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. If you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.